Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Welcome to Emancipation at 150, the impact of the Emancipation Proclamation, a discussion commemorating the 150th anniversary of the Emancipation Proclamation. This panel is co-sponsored by President Lincoln's Cottage and the United States Commission on Civil Rights and complements an anthology of essays by notable scholars, including the four seated before you today. The anthology is currently available online and will also be available as an ebook in the coming weeks. My name is Erin Carlson-Mast, and I'm the Executive Director here at President Lincoln's Cottage. Lincoln developed the Emancipation Proclamation while living at the cottage in the summer of 1862, making it the authentic place for understanding Lincoln's ideas on slavery and emancipation. For many years, that fact was recognized and celebrated, but it faded over time because of restricted access to the site and varying uses over time. In 2000, the cottage was declared a national monument by President William Clinton, igniting efforts to resurrect the story of President Lincoln's Cottage and the nation-changing events that took place here. After an 8-year restoration by the National Trust for Historic Preservation, the cottage opened to the public for the first time in history on President's Day in 2008, offering Americans unparalleled insight into Lincoln's life and work, notably his evolving ideas on slavery and the Emancipation Proclamation. The Emancipation Proclamation paved the way for the 13th Amendment and marked a critical turning point in the evolution of civil rights in America. For this reason, we cannot imagine a more fitting co-sponsor for this panel and anthology than the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights, and are honored that they agreed to undertake this project with us. I would like to recognize the members of our joint committee who provided leadership for this project. Commissioners Roberta Achtenberg and Gail Harriet, and Cottage Board members Candace Scheihuber and Michael Kahn. Thank you all. And now, please join me in welcoming U.S. Commission on Civil Rights Chairman Martin Castro. Mr. Castro is the President and CEO of the
You really know who I am, right?
which provides strategic consulting services to corporations, entrepreneurs, and nonprofit organizations that seek to collaborate with and have a positive social impact on diverse communities. Mr. Castro was appointed by President Barack Obama to the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights in January of 2011. In March 2011, President Obama elevated Mr. Castro to the position of chairperson of the USCCR, making him the agency's 8th chair since the formation of the commission and the first Latino chairperson in the over half-century history of the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights. Mr. Castro currently serves on various boards, including the Board of Directors of the National Museum of Mexican Art, the only accredited Latino museum in the United States, and has previously served on such boards as the Hispanic National Bar Association's U.S. Supreme Court Committee, of which he was the former chair. For his leadership and accomplishments, Mr. Castro has been decorated with numerous awards and recognition, just one of which was the National Medical Fellowship's Humanitarian Award. Mr. Castro is the proud product of Head Start and affirmative action in higher education. He received his bachelor's in political science in 1985 from DePaul University and his Juris Doctorate degree from the University of Michigan Law School in 1988. Mr. Castro was also awarded an honorary doctorate of humane letters from Roosevelt University in December 2011 for his work in the area of social justice. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm glad to see my mom got the bio she wrote. It is a true honor and a privilege to be here, not only as an individual person of color in the United States of America, but also as chairman of the United States Commission on Civil Rights, along with my colleagues. And I want to thank all those individuals on both of our organization staff who made today possible. Because those who say that bipartisanship is not alive in Washington, D.C. are wrong. Because this event, from the Commission's perspective, was a truly bipartisan effort that was brought forward by Democratic and Republican and independent commissioners. And this is one of the first times in a long time that the Commission itself has collaborated with an organization outside of the Commission. And I'm so proud that that organization is President Lincoln's Cottage. Because today we are commemorating something that not only had an impact in the past, but continues to resonate into the present and into the future. President Lincoln's Act truly changed the nature of our nation and the nature of the world by eradicating slavery. The essays that you'll read in the compendium that we're going to publish, as well as the presentations that you hear today, are going to talk about what the meaning of the Emancipation Proclamation was then over the years and today, and how that's evolved. It was a fascinating read to see how there's so many different perspectives about the meaning, both today and in the past, of the Emancipation Proclamation. And as we reflect on that important historic moment for our nation's history, I can't help but reflect on our Commission's involvement in commemorating the Emancipation Proclamation on its 100th anniversary, when the Commission drafted a report called Freedom to the Free, Century of Emancipation, 1863 to 1963. And my predecessor, Commission Chairman John Hanna, wrote in his transmittal letter to President Kennedy that surely the nation is at a threshold of a new birth of freedom. And Chairman Hanna was exactly right, because the following year, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 would be passed. The year after that, the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And I stand before you today as the first Latino chair of the United States Commission on Civil Rights, appointed by the first African-American president of this country, a true legacy of the Emancipation Proclamation. But as we look at this condition of civil rights today in the United States, certainly the proclamation has brought to fruition the promise of this land to so many over the last century and a half. Yet, much remains to be done. When the African-American unemployment rate is twice that of white Americans, the promise of emancipation has yet to be fully realized. When African-Americans make up almost half of our country's prison population and are 6 times more likely than white Americans to be incarcerated, they are not forever free, as promised by the proclamation. When almost 1/3 of African Americans live in poverty and many attend schools that are substandard, resegregated, and underfunded, we have much work to do yet as a nation. As President Lincoln said in his Gettysburg Address, it is for us, the living, rather to be dedicated to the unfinished work which they who fought here thus far have so nobly advanced. So let us, on this 150th year of the Emancipation Proclamation, rededicate ourselves to the work that President Lincoln started on January 1, 1863. Thank you.
It's my pleasure to now introduce our panelists. First, Ambassador at Large Luis C. Vaca, who was appointed by President Obama in May 2009 to coordinate U.S. government activities in the global fight against contemporary forms of slavery. He serves as senior advisor to the Secretary and directs the State Department's Office to Monitor and Combat Trafficking in Persons, which addresses global trends, provides training and technical assistance, and advocates for an end to modern slavery. Mr. Vaca formerly served as counsel to the House Committee on the Judiciary, where his portfolio for Chairman John Coyers Jr. included national security, intelligence, immigration, civil rights, and modern slavery issues. At the Justice Department, Mr. Vaca was one of the country's most decorated federal prosecutors, leading the investigation and prosecution of cases involving money laundering, organized crime, alien smuggling, official misconduct, hate crimes, and human trafficking. He was honored with an Attorney General's Distinguished Service Award for his service as lead trial counsel in the then largest slavery prosecution in U.S. history, which involved the enslavement of over 300 Vietnamese and Chinese workers in a garment factory in American Samoa. Additionally, he received the department's highest litigation honor, the Attorney General's George Marshall Award, and the Director's Award from the Executive Office of United States Attorneys. He has received the leading honor given by the National Trafficking Victim Service Provider Community, the Freedom Network's Paul and Sheila Wellstone Award, and has been named the Michigan Law School's Distinguished Latino Alumnus. He has convicted dozens of abusive Kingston employers and helped to liberate hundreds of victims from servitude. Mr. Vaca's family settled in New Mexico in the 1500s. He was raised on a cattle ranch in Huxley, Iowa, and attended Iowa State University. Mr. Vaca received his law degree from the Michigan Law School, where he was an editor of the Michigan Law Review. Dr. Spencer Crew has worked in public history institutions for more than 25 years and is currently a Robinson Professor of American, African American, and Public History at George Mason University. He has served as president of the National Underground Railroad Freedom Center, as well as director of the National Museum of American History, Smithsonian Institution. Crew has published extensively in the areas of African American and public history. Among his publications are Field to Factory, Afro-American Migration from 1915 to 1940, and Black Life in Secondary Cities, a comparative analysis of the Black communities of Camden and Elizabeth, New Jersey, from 1860 to 1920. He co-authored The American Presidency of Glorious Burden and Unchained Memories, Readings from the Slave Narratives. Crew is an active member of the academic and cultural communities, serving on many boards that work to generate enthusiasm for history among the general public. He is the past chair of the National Council for History Education and served on the board of the National Trust for Historic Preservation, as well as the nominating board of the Organization of American Historians. He graduated from Brown University and holds a master's degree and doctorate from Rutgers University. We are also joined by Dr. Alan Gelzo, who is the Henry R. Luce Professor of the Civil War era at Gettysburg College. He is the author of Abraham Lincoln, Redeemer President, Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation, The End of Slavery in America, Lincoln and Douglas, The Debates That Defined America, Lincoln, A Very Short Introduction, and Fateful Lightning, A New History of the Civil War and Reconstruction. He's a two-time winner of both the Lincoln Prize and Book Prize of the Abraham Lincoln Institute. Dr. Gelzo earned his master's degree and doctorate from the University of Pennsylvania. He is also a member of the President Lincoln's Cottage Scholarly Advisory Group and has been an advisor to this national monument for many years. We are also joined by Dr. Lucas Murrell, the Louis G. John Professor of Politics at Washington and Lee University. He arrived at WNL in July 1999 from Siloam Springs, Arkansas, where he had taught from 1994 to 1999 at John Brown University. His teaching and research interests are American government, political history, Abraham Lincoln, and Black American politics. He also serves as a pre-law advisor for the undergraduate university at large. Dr. Morrell is president of the Abraham Lincoln Institute, trustee of the Supreme Court Historical Society, and board member of the Abraham Lincoln Association. In the 2008-2009 academic year, he was the Garwood Visiting Research Fellow at the James Madison Program and American Ideals and Institutions at Princeton University. He also teaches in the master's program in American History and Government at Ashland University in Ashland, Ohio, where he also serves on the board of advisors. He has written for the Los Angeles Times, Christian Science Monitor, First Things, and Richmond Times Dispatch, and is currently writing a book entitled Lincoln, Race, and the Fragile American Republic. He holds degrees from Claremont McKenna College and the Claremont Graduate School. Dr. Merrill is also a member of the Cottages Scholarly Advisory Group.